Well, good evening, everybody. Let me get rid of the music and get me in here full blown. And we hit that button, and there I am. How's everybody? I got 28 of you out there anyway. At least I'm not talking to nobody, to thin air. Well, good to see y'all. And I think we're right on time here tonight. I am living proof tonight, my friends, that the show must go on. And I was beginning to wonder today for a little while whether I was going to be able to make it tonight. Nothing serious. I think I twisted or slightly sprained my ankle. And if I show you the view from behind, you'll see that I have my foot up on a elevating it right there. And I've been hobbling around all day like a cripple, and I don't know what I did. It hurt a little when I got up this morning. I hobbled all over it. I've been on it most of the day, and it got just a little bit swollen. Nothing serious, and certainly not serious enough to go have it looked at or, God forbid, take a pill. And, I thought that everybody else by now would be swallowing down the Advil or Motrin. And I haven't had one of those things in a year and a half. I'm afraid to take one. I don't know what the hell would happen to me. I'm afraid I might explode. So it's not that bad. I've been icing it a little bit, and I'm just keeping it elevated. And I said, well, my foot's not doing the talking. My face is, so we'll give it a shot. But if it starts to bother me, guys, and it's starting to nag at me, which I don't think it will, because I'm just sitting still here, maybe we won't go 2 hours tonight. Maybe we'll cut it a little shorter. Anyway, good to see y'all. Real quick, y'all know I'm a doctor. Don't give you medical advice, yada, yada, yada. And that's my disclaimer. Everybody hear me okay? See me okay? Everything looks good? Very good. Very good. Not that I can hear you back, but we got a nice crowd gathering. 50 people already. Wow. So let me... got a few things to talk about tonight of interest, stuff that's going on, but let me start and say hello to some of my friends in the chat. This is more like a gathering of friends for me than show business, but I enjoy it. I hope you all do too. We have Andrew H. left a message before the show started. He was way up at the top of the chat, and he said he had a question. Celine Dion's health has been rapidly deteriorating, and he looked up what she eats in a day. So, of course, out of curiosity, I had to do the same thing. She's always professed to be kind of a health nut, but more on the traditional sense with the salads and the fruits and the vegetables and all that. And he asked if anybody thinks she's introduced the carnivore lifestyle yet, and I highly doubt it. I absolutely highly doubt it. I didn't see a mention of it in any of the Google returns that I saw. But anyway, I really, really like her music, and I hope she's okay. Open Mind is here early. How you doing, baddest cat? Well, let me put up Open Mind there. Thank you, too. And the baddest cat is here, says hello. Our friend Richard Williams in Copper Hill, Tennessee. And I haven't seen that Robert guy from Copper Hill again, so he may have got tired of me or didn't like the competition of somebody else in Copper Hill. And here's somebody that I just met, basically, roundaboutly. This is Carnivore Cheer. Her name is Lori. Lori is a brand new YouTuber, and she gave me a shout out in a video that she did the other day. So I went to her channel and I subscribed and I watched her video, and it was was good. It was well done, and it was basically it amazed me because from the shout outs that she was giving, I don't know how one person just has enough time in a day to watch that many YouTube videos. I thought I was the only one that did that, but evidently I've got company here. So anyway, good to have you here tonight, Lori. Good to see you. And Carnivore Cheer, look her up. Limitless Lindy, good morning. You must be in Australia. Yes, you are. I think you are. And Limitless Lindy must have a YouTube channel too, because Carnivore Cheer shouted her out. I obviously am falling behind on looking up some of the channels of some of the people that watch me. I need to be a little more diligent there. Anyway, good to see you. Thanks for coming. We have William McCartney here. He wants to know how everybody is tonight. And Eva Stanton, how are you? I'm going to try not to do all these. And Julie is here. How you doing, Julia? Sometimes A's look like E's and everything else, but I should know it's Julia by now. How you doing, sweetie? Good to see you. BB1 Mac is here. Cranky Carnivore Cutler, how are you? And Don M, good to see you. Mama Cracker is here. Good to see you. And Linda G. I got a lot of the private community here tonight. Good to see you guys. Jennifer, always good to see you. And I'm fine, other than I've been hobbled a little bit here, but it's nothing major. You know, I think I walked yesterday. I did that whole video. I walked miles yesterday when I did that. That walk ended up, by the time I got all done, you know, of course I wasn't recording the whole time, but I probably walked 4 miles. It was about an hour. And some people said that I looked like I was limping in the video. I watched the video, and there were times when I was going up and down and looked like I was limping, but I just attributed that to the fact that there's a culvert along the side of the road, which is about an inch or two lower than the actual road itself. And I always try to hug the very edge. And a lot of times I'll have one foot gone down into the culvert and the other foot up on the road. And when I was walking on a flat road, I didn't see that limp looking up and down motion. But it's very possible that I twisted something wrong. I went to bed last night. I had nothing, no problem, no swelling, no anything. And got up this morning and my ankle was sore. So I either went out and did something that I wasn't aware of while I was dreaming, or slept on it the wrong way. But how the hell do you sleep on your ankle the wrong way? At any rate, it's just been bugging me all day, and it hurts. So I don't know. Who knows? If it does, if it doesn't get better in a couple of days, I'll maybe go see if it's anything major. I don't think I broke anything. I think it just feels like a little, not even a sprain. It feels like a little strain, Anyway, leave it to me. Just when I'm feeling like $1 billion, somebody takes all my money. Okay, we had Jennifer up there, and JM says, how long to reverse type 2 diabetes on carnivore? A1C is 10. Well, I can only tell you what the doctors say, guys like Ken Berry and all that, and they don't really have a definitive answer. They usually 3 to 9 months, you'll hear them say. Sometimes it happens to people really quick. And it depends, I guess, on so many other factors, so many other physical conditions that you might have. Your weight and everything else. But it'd be interesting, let us know how it is progressing next time you get your blood work. And good luck to you. Should work, from what everybody says. They get results. It may not completely go away in a week, but most of the people that you hear in this community are getting results. I see Julia says the ankle pain could be a spite. No, this is not a bite. There's nothing on it. I've done this before. This is a twisted ankle. And where it is on the side of my foot, right under the ankle bone, that's where the joint is. There's tendons and all kinds of stuff in there. So I don't think it's a bite. It's I think I must have walked funny for a little while on that walk yesterday, and that's what I get for being in show business, making videos. We have BB1 Mac. How you doing? I rolled my ankle 45 years ago and still flares up. Yeah, this was not a serious injury. I mean, I know that it didn't bend over. I would have remembered that. I would have felt that. I have no idea where this came from. So we'll see. I'm sure it'll be okay. Meanwhile, this is kind of comfortable to have an ottoman underneath my desk like this. Texas Carnivore is here. Good evening to you. And Coco. Howdy all. Good to see you. Good to see you. And JM says, how long to reverse type do in carnivore? A1, we had that one already, I think. Open mind again. Jennifer, Limitless Lindy, everybody's talking to each other. Good for you. Rocket 99 is here. Eva Stanton, I think I may have said hello to you, but we'll do it again. JM, stop. You keep typing that same comment in there, and I don't know how that's happening, but we still love you. Primal Timeline. How you doing, Pete? That's Pete from Australia. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming in on a Tuesday night. And who is this? Miss Monica. Hi, Mitch from Illinois. What state are you in? I'm in the state of Florida. And it was like 50 degrees this morning, which up in Illinois is summertime, but down here it's, Eskimo weather. It's supposed to get a little colder, I think, tomorrow morning as well. Then it should warm up a little bit for the next cold front. Linda G. lives in Quebec. Who else didn't I say hi to here? Eva Stan, Naomi Jones. Hello to you. Here's Andrew. Carnivore Chair. Oh, everybody's subscribing. See that, Lori? You get some subs by showing up in the chats here. And Lorraine 24 from Ontario, Canada. How are you? Good to see you. Long walks can aggravate my ankle. Yeah, it normally doesn't, because usually I'll walk 3, 4, 5 miles and it's no big deal. But who knows? Take 2 slices of bacon and sleep on it. Yeah. It's a good idea. I like that. Bluebell. Sandra McDonald, Julia. Boy, a lot of... There we go. We're getting to the bottom. We're getting to the bottom of this. Who's this one here? This is Fontroid. How you doing, my friend? Mark is here. Mark says, hello, Mitch. And Lori is pulling up the rear here. Thank you, Lori. So, everybody, let me get my little notepad up here. I know I've told you all this. If any of you bought my T-shirts, and I know you have, because I see them going out, take a picture of yourself with your cell phone, email them to me, so I can put them on the website in the little gallery there. And my email is everywhere. It's oldguycarnivore@gmail.com. I don't want to do a whole commercial, but I got a website. There's I have a merch store with some T-shirts and sweatshirts and hoodies and things. We got 3 different graphics on them. One of them is the food pyramid. One of them just says take the rest of the day off and eat meat, and the other just says Old Guy Carnivore. It's got that face with me in the middle. Amazon links are there. Amazon keeps changing. If any of you try one of those links and you get a not found page or something, I'd appreciate it if you'd send me an email and let me know. It's hard to keep up a lot of times with the way Amazon shuffles these things around, because they have the same product from many different vendors, and this vendor will run out of it, so that link I got it will die. And that's especially true on that stupid, not stupid, but that hair fryer, the Z Star. I've had to fix that 4 or 5 times already. So, and the latest one was the panko pork rind crumbs. I have heard, if you want to do it, that, and I haven't been out there to check it out yet, but I have heard that you can get them cheaper than Amazon at Walmart, and you guys may want to check that out. Also, that salmon that I bought, I've heard that from you guys that it's a little cheaper. They say it's the same thing. I haven't gone to see exactly what they're selling, but it's a couple bucks a can cheaper at Aldi. And that doesn't surprise me, because Amazon is certainly the most convenient, but most of the time not the cheapest place to get things. You pay for the convenience. You pay for a guy with a truck making a special trip to your house on a Sunday to deliver you something that cost 89 cents. And you're a Prime member, so that's all you pay. I know I've done that. I bought something that was $1 or $2, and if I had to pay freight and everything else to get it overnight the next day on a Sunday delivery, it would be $100. So you pay for that. You pay for that service somehow. Everybody pays for it. Just a reminder, in this era of quashing our message and publicizing the other guy's message all over the place, it's important for us to do the work ourselves, and that means spreading the word as much as we can. Use your social media, repost or forward links to not just my videos, but any video you see from any carnivore or keto influencer that you think might be valuable. Throw it in your X or Instagram or something, because then people will see it. Otherwise, a lot of these things just aren't coming up. They just aren't coming up in their feed. So that'll help everybody out. I learned something very interesting today, and that is that, you know, that notification bell that everybody keeps telling you to ring the notification bell, and how important it is to ring the notification bell. Turns out it's not important at all. Turns out that on average, maybe when a video goes up, maybe 1% of the views actually come from people who got the notification bell. So I don't ask anyway, but I don't think it really helps out. And the reason it really doesn't help out is most people have the notifications on their cell phone from the YouTube app just turned off, because it just keeps going off all the time. And even if they send the notification and you have the notification switch turned off in the YouTube app on your phone, you wouldn't get them anyway. So people just aren't getting these things. Damon John says, got your website and my phone detected malicious software on it. Must be serious. No, I don't think so. It's being hosted by a huge, like Bluehost, a huge host, and we've got 20, 30 sites in my daughter's company on that. Nobody's ever said anything, and I'm using just the basic standard software I use to build all the websites that I build. So there's no chance that could be. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe your antivirus has got a virus. But if anybody else sees that, please let me know. I don't want to get anybody sick here, spread around any kind of virus. I'm surprised to hear that. Any of you who haven't hit the Publix rib roast sale yet, I think you got until Christmas. I know that I should have put this on silent, but I didn't. If I seem a little bit off tonight, I didn't sleep much last night. I'm very tired today, and my foot hurts. So I may zone out a little bit here. I'm still not drinking caffeinated coffee. But I did want to do this. I did want to do this. What else I got here? Oh, I took 3 days off and didn't post a video. I wonder if anybody noticed. And it was great. It was great. I had talked over the past week or two about just overdoing it on this, and I met my goal. My goal was to get 100 videos out there on my channel about carnivore, and I did that in less than 4 months. I'm at 121 now, and basically I managed to keep up one video a day plus the live streams, which is way too much for a one-man band like me. It's not too much for a Shawn Baker, Ken Berry, Robert Sivas. These guys have staffs. They have editors. They have people that just search the news to get them ideas. Read every medical journal looking for ideas for videos. I know Shawn Baker posts on YouTube at least 6-8 times a day, and he posts, God knows, 30, 40 tweets on X, formerly Twitter. You can't do that, and you can't keep up with that. It's all I can do. I read all the comments, and that's a full-time job. I can't hardly even read my Twitter account, and I hardly ever post on my Twitter account. It's just not enough time. And any of you that are really busy on social media will know what I'm talking about. So as a one-man band, I'm going to be doing about 3, maybe 4 videos a week, couple live streams. And if I miss a day, I'm going to miss a day. It didn't seem to matter because it was 3 days, and I posted that one of me walking around the community yesterday talking about addiction, which is my favorite subject to talk about. And it's up to almost 6,000 views already, which is what I consider good performance. Anything under 2,000 views is nobody cares. And I can see the watch time on it and see what percentage of the video people watch before they click off. We have all of those numbers. The analytics that we have to see is absolutely nuts. The demographics, the percentage of men versus women, the percentage of subscribers versus non-subscribers, the geographical, the number of people in every country, and the percentage of the videos are reviewed by people in the United States, Mexico, Australia, Great Britain. We know exactly where our audience is. We know when they're tuning out, when they're getting bored, and that's supposed to be information that we can use to try to diagnose why is it that after 30 seconds of me, people go away. And there are hundreds of YouTube channels with guys whose YouTube videos are about nothing but telling other YouTubers what to look for and what to do and how to word things and how to make thumbnails and how to write titles and how to script their videos so that the people don't go away. And it kind of takes the fun out of it. You know, it's just almost more fun to just grab the microphone, camera, start talking and see if you can interest people. But you have to play that game. You have to play that game here on YouTube, and it just makes it that much more tiring, especially if you're doing it every day. There's I wanted to tell you that is helping lighten it up. And if you guys have any ideas of things you might think would be something interesting that I might be able to make a video on, don't hesitate to let me know. Don't, please. I am trying, because of the photographer and technical guy that I am really trying to up the game on these videos of mine and make them. And I think I did that with the last one. I think that last video that I made, where I was walking around the park, I think from watching it, I think I've actually gotten to a good level of video quality, of good clean sound. And the only thing I can't figure out about that video, and this still surprises me, and amazes me. I talked all that time with no script, no idea what I was going to say next. And I've watched it back a couple times, and I sit there like this. I said, where the hell did all this come from? And it amazes me. If I tried to write that down, I couldn't. If I tried to read it from a script, I couldn't. And that's why, but that's what happens to me when I seem to be occupied with something else. If I'm walking or if I'm cooking breakfast in the kitchen, the words just come out of me. It's almost like I'm turning it over to my subconscious to do it. So those are fun formats for me to do these videos. And as long as I have a point to make, I can ramble around and think I can be semi-interesting until I actually make that point. And I enjoy it. I enjoy it. But it's scary. It makes you nervous sometimes when you know you're going to be ad-libbing everything you say. Even the best comedians, they've memorized most of their stuff. Anyway, it works. It works for me, and for some reason I have the ability to do it. I don't know where I got it. Nobody taught it to me. I may be doing it all wrong. Who knows? Who knows? But I think that I would have made a good teacher. I was a flight instructor for a while, and I just like teaching people things. And people tell me I have a way of using analogies that are good to explain things, and I hope that helps, because some of these topics we talk about are very confusing. And one of the things I did mention in that video of my walking around the park was that I remember how confused, I'm still confused, when I listen to all these different people, because even within the keto and carnivore community, we've got so many differences of opinions about how you should do it, what you should do, what's important. Should you take supplements? Shouldn't you take supplements? Should you check your ketones? Don't check your ketones. Should you fast? Not fast. And everybody is talented, and a lot of them are professionals. And we tend to, if we are listening to somebody we think is believable, that sways our opinion a little bit one way or the other. Now, the good news about all of us keto carnivore people is that the vegans and vegetarians can't sway our opinion. We're too far gone for them. I don't know how many of you saw Shawn Baker's little video today. He was eating he's always just sitting there eating his big steak, and he's in a he's playing some kind of TikTok video or something of these vegans that march in on this steakhouse restaurant and took over the place screaming and yelling with signs and everything. And I watched that stuff. And it amazes me. It amazes me how wrapped up these people get and what they're willing to do. They sit down in the middle of roads and block traffic on interstate highways because stop killing the animals. They go into stores and trash stores and spill milk all over. They do all of this stuff. Who the hell do these people think that they are? They don't belong in a civilized society. And it disgusts me to watch that stuff. Some people just find it funny. I find it absolutely disgusting. They ought to be just hauled out there and put in jail somewhere until they learn how to behave. I mean, you're allowed to have an opinion, but don't be destructive. Don't go into some guy's business and cost him money and cost him customers. And there, James Doherty said it. Their minds are lacking nutrition. There is something definitely wrong with these people. And I think the more malnourished we get, the more you see this lunacy. Andrew H., my email is oldguycarnivore oldguycarnivore@gmail.com. One word, oldguycarnivore, no spaces, at Gmail. It is on my, if you go to my channel webpage, there's an About tab, and it's on that tab. I think it's also in the description of every one of my videos in the show notes too. So I put that out there. Let me take a second. Wow, I got through a half an hour. My foot's doing fine. All right. I may just leave this little stool. I had a pillow on top of the stool, but it fell. Hold on. Pardon me while I get my pillow. I knocked it off. I made a note here to talk about, but let me take a look at the chat here. I know that a lot's gone by. I want to look for questions. If anybody wants to ask me anything, put in QQQ in question marks or questions, and then I can pick it as I scroll by, because these chats fill up wildly, which is great. Because, you know, that's the whole purpose of these things. It's as much a gathering as it is coming in here to watch me make a semi-fool of myself for an hour or two. Mitch, Julia is right. Okay, what did Julia say? Ankle pain could be a spider bug. No, okay, we know that. That's where I left off. Tendons can flare with RH. Yeah. No, I've been fine. I've been pain-free for a long time. I think it has something to do with that walk I took yesterday. It's too much of a coincidence that I would wake up this morning with the pain after that walk yesterday. Laurie's getting a lot of subscriptions. Good for you. Good for you. Miss Monica says, I'm her new recipe man. Yeah, that's one of the things that I enjoy about doing this. There's two distinct sides to it. There's the theoretical and the psychological and the medical and all that complicated rabbit hole stuff. And then there's the practical. How do you cook a steak? How do you make this? How do you do that? How do you shop where you get the good deals? I try to do about half and half, but it seems that I end up doing 80% of the practical stuff because, quite frankly, more people are interested in that. Now, the video I did walking through the community yesterday was one of the other kind of videos. It was understand why you're doing this. And I love talking. You know, you've heard me go down those things. I get started on those rabbit holes with the biochemistry and evolutionary biology and all that stuff. And I just keep going. And I usually lose a lot of people. I'm looking at my viewer count. It's 102 right now. And I keep a close eye on that, because if I go off on one of these tangents and that thing starts going down like a, winding up down like a gas pump, I say, well, let's change the subject here, you know. Wild Planet salmon that Mitch made patties from looks like a great way to add some variety. Yeah, and those things are so good for you too. They're not going to replace beef, but maybe once a week to have sardines or salmon or some real fatty fish. And the reason I like those is that it says on the can with skin and bones, and when you first read that, you say, oh, yuck, why would I want to? But you don't realize that the bones, the bones from those are so soft that they mash up, and the skin too. You don't even realize that you're eating skin and bones and fish. But a lot of nutrition there, probably good collagen, certainly good omega-3 fats, and you're putting in the magic elixir of everything, bacon grease. It's funny. It's just so funny to listen to people when you tell people out in I call them civilians, when you tell the average person what you're eating and how you cook it, they'll look at you like you're from Mars. And that was something that was another thing that I did want to say. I got to thinking, and I said, there's not really a lot of us out there. There's a lot more keto people, certainly a lot more keto, and most of us came from keto, and some of us are still keto. A lot of people can do that very successfully if they're not an addict, if they don't go off on binges. I don't know too many people who binge on broccoli and Brussels sprouts, but the stuff that you binge on is when you start trying to figure out how to make the cakes and cookies and then you start using the almond flours and the artificial sweeteners, and next thing you know, you're off the diet again. You just got to have the real thing. But there's very few of us. There's not a lot of us, and surely you guys have recognized that fact just in the circles that you travel in your own lives. You start talking about carnivore, everybody, oh, what is it? Oh, oh God, I gotta go. I've never seen people find so many excuses to get away from me as when I start talking about carnivore. The reason people don't want to know about carnivore is they don't want to do it. They're too married to the food they eat. That's their whole life. Basically, telling somebody to go on carnivore is like telling somebody to give up everything they love. It's a hard thing to do, especially if you're not motivated. And most of us in this community got here because we became motivated, either because of health issues or we just got sick and tired of being fat, or being diabetic, or whatever it is. But most people aren't that motivated. Even the ones that are sick, they're not motivated. Their whole life revolves around food, and it just keeps getting worse. Food and drink, every celebration, every party, every reward is something to eat, a treat, a dessert. We're so far down that path that it's hard to come back. And the few individuals that do find carnivore, we've all learned, I've learned especially, just keep my mouth shut when I'm in public, unless somebody actually asks me. And then it's better just to direct them to Ken Berry than to try to actually help them. I've tried to help maybe 20 people. Not one of them has succeeded. Not one of them was able to conquer most often his living situation, where his family was always, they didn't want any part of it. They thought he was crazy. They were telling him, you're going to kill yourself, and while they sat there eating cheesecake in front of him. So how the hell are you going to succeed when you're in an environment like that? But it makes me feel like we're like the French underground in World War II. We're hiding in basements and we're afraid to look out the window lest somebody from the real world spots us. And I don't know if anybody else gets that feeling, but I thought that's weird. Why, with something that there's so much evidence out there and more every day, and there's so much logic and common sense to it all, about the fact that, and I said this in my walking video the other day, I said they call this a fad diet. And my comeback whenever I hear that fad diet is, it's a 2-3 million year old fad. This is what we should be eating, and it's easy to understand in a capitalist society like we have why the people who make money don't want to sell you beef or meat. There's not a lot of profit in it. They want to sell you the high profit stuff. And I understand that. That they're in business. What bothers me most, though, and I just watched it tonight, for the second week in a row, Ken Berry decided he wanted to come on right before me on Tuesday night. He did it last week too. But fortunately, he came on 2 hours before I started, so he didn't overlap me. But he came on tonight, and I don't know if anybody out there actually saw Ken tonight. And I really wish I was keeping better track of the chat here. Oh, Donald, that's a little too much information. I've had bubbly piss since I started. Yeah. That's not as strange as you might think. That's a symptom of protein in the urine. I had it too. I had it years ago, and I foamy, and I did a lot of research, and I actually heard Ken Berry mention this, and this is for you, Donald, because I'm sure you didn't see Ken Berry's video where he talked about that. But basically, he said that you don't need to worry unless the bubbles are still there after like between 2 and 4 minutes. In other words, if it bubbles up, but the bubbles break pretty quickly, that's fine. That's not a problem. I can tell you this, that after 16 months, 16 and a half months now, of pure carnivore with no carbs and no nothing, that has completely cleared up for me. Never get that anymore. And my last urinalysis was perfect. I had nothing in there that wasn't supposed to be there. Certainly, and with the amount of protein that I eat and that we all eat, if we had any kidney problems like that, you'd have a lot of protein in your urine. So keep doing what you're doing. If you're doing carnivore, and keep an eye on that. If the bubbles go away quick, don't worry about it. Senator McDonald says you need the YouTube Premium to get all the notifications. I don't know. I don't get notifications from anybody, and I have the notification bell turned off. Mitch, are your live streams at the same time and day each week? They are. Yes. Yes, they are, Lori. I have a Tuesday night live stream, which is public, and then on Thursday night, the private community. I have a live stream at 7 o'clock. 8 o'clock on Tuesday night. I like to do that same time each week. And then people who like to watch, like Ken Berry does, he does his Monday night thing. What are your thoughts on stevia on a carnivore lifestyle? I consume a lot of it. I wonder if it raises insulin. It can, any sweet taste can cause an insulin response because of the cephalic phase, what they call the cephalic phase response. It's a physiological thing that you have to prepare your body for sugar that's coming. And it's triggered by sweet taste or smell. The old joke about I can smell food and get fat is not a joke. It's a real thing. Because if you're going to, if your body's used to or had been used to getting big things of sugar, it's very important for you to get your insulin levels up there quick so you don't become hyperglycemic and end up with a blood sugar of 400. So what the cephalic phase response does is when any of your senses pick up something that indicates sugar is imminent, it preloads your bloodstream with some insulin. Now, when you use an artificial sweetener, like stevia or anything else, the sugar doesn't come. But the insulin is still there. And the insulin's job is to cram as much sugar into your cells as it can to keep you from becoming hyperglycemic. In that respect, yes, you can gain weight from artificial sweeteners. And for the same reason, they can trigger cravings. And that's a whole long story to get into why that happens, and I'm not going to do that to you guys tonight. But yes, and you're talking to a guy that used to, I used to think, well, I'm just drinking diet soda. There's no calories. There's no nothing. It can't hurt me. And yet, it was always something was always holding me back or knocking me off my diet. And when I finally gave up the diet sodas, which are just nothing but a bunch of chemicals anyway, things got easier. I have been using these electrolytes from Dr. Berg that have a little stevia in them, and I know most people who take the element stuff get the flavored kind that have stevia. And I don't think it's that bad as long as it doesn't trigger any cravings, but I wouldn't use a lot of it. I wouldn't use a lot of it. If it tastes like sickening, really sweet, nah, it's no good. That's no good. Fondroid says, yes, stevia raises your insulin, but not so much as other sweeteners. Stop it. I don't tell people to stop. I suggest. I'm having a busy day. Let's see. Everybody liked my video walking around the park. I'm glad you did. I think of all the ones I've done, I think that message, I managed to put those words all together in a meaningful way, and I was very proud of that. So I thank you if you liked it. And like I say, it's up around 6,000 views. Now, the last video I did walking around the community is, it's up around 35 or 40,000 views, and it wasn't as good as this last one I did. And there's no rhyme or reason to why YouTube is driven to push a certain video and not another video. I can't figure it out. I just can't. Karen White, hello from Canada. I really enjoy your unscripted off the cuff. Well, you're watching it now, that's for sure. And I saw that email again. That's to Don M. Cranky. I get notifications, but sometimes, yeah. Nick Norwitz, yeah. This allulose, that's another thing. They're telling people that allulose is good for you. I'm just afraid to say that for so many of us, it's got absolutely nothing to do with the chemical makeup, what's in it or what it does. It's all about the sweet taste. That is what the taste buds are there for, to give the body a clue. All kinds of clues. If it's sweet, get ready for the glucose. If it's bitter, you probably shouldn't be eating this. It'll kill you. If it's delicious, it's good for you. These are the functions of the taste bud. They're not there to entertain you. They are sensors to detect what's going into your mouth and setting your body up to handle it. Because for everything you eat, there is generally a cascade of events that happen to digest the food, to absorb the nutrients. I mean, and these things are sequences of events that, once you start them, you pump in stomach acid, you break down the meat, you empty the stomach into the intestines, then, now the amino acids, which are the results of all the proteins that got broken down, they've got to be absorbed in the small intestine and all this stuff. And then whatever's left over, cram out the back end. And it is a timed out series of events triggered by generally the first taste of whatever goes in your mouth. So Irene says that the allulose doesn't taste as sweet. For me, I found one of the pillars of the reason that this is the first time in all my years that it actually worked was that I have eliminated things that are sweet. And I don't miss them now. I don't miss them. And I got rid of the Berg's electrolytes and mixed up my own now. And the way I dilute it down, it just tastes like water. So you don't. QQQ, is YouTube hiding the QQQs from me? Obviously not. I don't think YouTube gets involved at the chat level unless they do filter them, though. They do moderate the chats, looking for, most importantly, looking for links that people are trying to put in, because that's generally spammers. And when we post a video or set up a live stream, we tell YouTube at what level we want the moderation. You know, hard, medium, or light. And same thing with chats from the videos. There's a tab that I get when I read your comments and answer your comments, that it says right next to the tab that says video, you know, comments you have not responded to yet, which is what I look at. Right next to it is a tab that says held for review. And that's puzzling. Not a lot of comments get in there. Any comment with a link will be held for review. So some of you have put, you know, great YouTube links with helpful videos. They're never going to make it into the comments until I approve it. So that's another thing I've got to do. And maybe every couple of days I manage to get into that tab. Because by the time I get done answering all the comments and reading all the comments, and I love all the comments and I'm glad they're there, but there are times when I'm sitting here, you know, 11 o'clock at night, still going through those comments, trying to answer them. And if you notice, a lot of times I'll answer your comment within minutes of when you put it in. I have those notifications turned on my phone, but they don't make noise. They basically just put, I don't know if you can see this. I see that red dot on there. That red dot is a YouTube comment. I wouldn't know it was there until I actually looked at my phone. But I look at my phone a lot during the day because I'm checking on YouTube. I'm doing all kinds of things. And so when I see those, it's easier for me to just go right in there and answer it. Type a thank you or give a thumbs up or something. Sometimes I do get sucked in, though. Sometimes I'm in the middle of something and I see that red dot pop up and I open the thing up and it's the longest content, the longest comment that has ever been written on the planet. It's like this long. And I go, oh shit, should I read this comment now? I don't have the time now. I thought it was just going to be one of those, hi Mitch, love your videos, thanks, comments. But you get one of these really long ones. And I mean, I love those. Not that I love them, but I love that somebody thought that I was important enough for them to compose a short novel. And I always try to honor that effort by seriously reading the entire thing. And of course, I'm looking for a question in there that I can answer, because other than that, I can only say thank you very much, thank you very kindly, and you just run out of ways to say thank you. You're doing that all day. I appreciate that. Good luck to you. But I try to at least acknowledge, and especially somebody that spends that much time writing a comment and worked that hard at it to tell me their whole life story. I want to let them know I at least read it, which is something I never get when I leave comments on other people's videos. Nobody reads those comments like that. I don't even know why I do, but I do. I feel an obligation to do that. I appreciate all my viewers, and knock on wood, I hate to say this, there hardly any aggravating comments anymore. Are you into fermented edibles or drinkables? No, I never liked that stuff. I was never a yogurt fan or a kefir or any of that stuff. I think it all stemmed from when I was a little kid, and my mother told me that there was a lot of little active bacteria and bugs in there. And I went, oh, and I think my whole life I just have been turned off. I don't even like cheese that much. I do, Mitch, I respond to all. Chris Hope, Hey, my buddy Chris. How you doing? Chris is one of my old drone guys still around. Yeah, the drone guys always did. But Chris, I can get 500 or 1,000 comments in a day on this thing now. I never got this many. I never got hardly any comments on my drone stuff. Chris is one of the nicest guys. Don't let this go to your head, Chris. Chris is one of the nicest, most considerate guys. And I'm embarrassed every year when he texts me on my birthday. I haven't seen him or talked to him in years, and yet every year on my birthday I get a happy birthday text from him, and I don't return. I don't know his birthday. And every year when I get that text from him, I go, ah, shit. Don't I feel bad now? But you're a real gentleman, Chris. Don't let anybody ever tell you different. Florida. Patton, what do you think removing stevia helped? Jennifer, Chris Hope, hi. Yeah, Jennifer's in Texas too. Chris is in Texas. Chris has got a YouTube channel. Look him up. Greg, for my wife trying to cut down on carbs. 1 tablespoon of honey and corn sprinkled on grilled ribs instead of my former barbecue sauce. Yeah, I mean, if you can taper down, if you're trying to get on this, and you can figure out a way to taper down a little bit. That sometimes might be the best way for people to actually get into carnivore, is to taper into it, problem is a lot of times when you taper into it, those things just trigger your cravings, and while you're busy tapering in, you're falling right off. So other people say, if you're going to do something, rip the Band-Aid off, man, just go cold turkey. Pat Ramirez making keto ice cream with cottage cheese and chocolate, vanilla, stevia. Oh my God. See, that's the stuff that just has always destroyed me. Why is there no lamb and beef, butter, bacon, and eggs? Alan, that's the burning question. I think that we can safely assume that you can substitute virtually any ruminant meat for the beef. That would make, but if we started trying to put all those different letters together, we would have the same problem as those other people with all those letters have, because they keep adding more letters to it. And they even put a plus on the end, and I don't know what the hell that means. I'm having a hard time keeping up with all of that, but I think the 4 letters in there are plenty. So I think that Andrew wants to know when's Chris's birthday. Listen, don't expect me to remember it. I probably should write it down, but I have the time. I know my kids' birthdays. That's about, and my grandkids, and I would forget my grandkids' birthdays if I didn't have them in my calendar to remind me every year. Irene says I tapered on keto diet. Well, I started with keto, and I started back in 2017 or 2018. I did keto for quite a while, but I kept falling off the wagon. I mean, I never really failed at the diet, but I sure as hell slowed it down. Oh, Chris, thank you so much, my friend. You didn't have to do that. Chris Hope, Merry Christmas, Mitch and everyone. Chris, like I said, you're a gentleman. I need to actually give you a phone call one day and talk to you. I'm going to do that. And if you do get here to Florida, I don't know if they're still having that drone meetup, but if you do get here to Florida and you don't call me, then I'll be pissed at you. HD TV Plus. Joseph Stewart. I eat lamb. I don't eat lamb. I don't know why. I'm with Jennifer. The flavor of beef is, I think, far beyond the flavor of old. I've never tried goat. I've eaten venison. Some of that meat tastes a little gamey to me, but there's just something about a good ribeye. So I think I got down to the bottom of the chat here. Let me see if there's anything else that. I did want to talk I started talking and then I got sidetracked. I wanted to talk about this video tonight with Ken Berry, Nick Norwitz, and Adrian Sotomoda. And I don't know if you know who those guys are, but Nick Norwitz and Dave Feldman were the guys that had all that notoriety last week on the 8th of December when they released the results of their lean mass hyperresponder. Pretty well, not finalizing any results, but gaining evidence towards proving that there's a lot more to cholesterol than the simplistic high cholesterol is bad, low cholesterol is good. There's a lot more to it than that. And there needs to be a lot of further study, especially into the phenotype of lean mass hyperresponders, of which I think I'm one, with extremely high LDL, low triglycerides, and high HDL. And no heart disease to speak of. So after a lifetime of having high LDL, and every doctor I've ever had telling me how I'd be dead, shortly from heart disease if I didn't start taking their statins, and dollars to donuts, most of those doctors are dead now, and old Mitch is still kicking. So, if their theory can be disproved by one example, then it's not causal, because if it was, it would happen every time. If you say to yourself, I have a theory that pigs can't fly. That's a hypothesis that I have. I'm going to start doing some tests, but I have a theory, a hypothesis that pigs can't fly. And I don't think that would be a hard hypothesis to prove until the first pig flew by. And that's all it would take. One flying pig. And you're wrong. And you can't claim pigs can't fly anymore. If one pig can fly, you're wrong. So if you're claiming that anybody with a 300 LDL like I have is a heart attack walking, and I end up living to 110 years old with no appreciable heart disease, you're wrong. You can't claim that anymore. It's more complicated than that. It's not that simplistic. So these guys are doing amazing work, and they're doing it right in the middle of a battlefield with the bullets flying at them from every direction, from all of the different food companies and drug companies and vegans and vegetarians and college professors that have been teaching this bullshit for years, and their reputations and their salaries and their positions all ride on the fact that cholesterol is bad for you. Oh, hey, Merry Christmas to you, Pete. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I have Australian money now. That's great. Thanks. I appreciate that. Speaking of Christmas, that's Monday. I am going to be here next Tuesday night. So I don't see a reason why not to be. So I'll be here. I'll be here. The show must go on. Yeah, so these guys, what I'm trying to get to it anyway, these guys were on with Ken Berry tonight. And there was another study that was done out of the NIH, the National Institute of Health. Evidently, it cost $100 million to do this study of our money, of taxpayers' money, $100 million to do this study where they compared a low-fat, high-carb diet against a low-carb, high-fat diet. And they came to the conclusion that the 100 What is this? It says, let's celebrate their first super on a live stream. I don't know what that means, but thank you, whoever. Their conclusion was the conclusion of everybody else in the mainstream views, that the low-carb, high-fat diet wasn't as good for you as the low-fat, high-sugar diet. Coincidentally, the diet that's killing us way before our time. Andrew H., thank you so much. I appreciate that. Merry Christmas. You guys are going to make me say ho, ho, ho here pretty soon. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. It means a lot to me. Number one. I don't know about that, but thanks so much. Thanks so much. Warms my heart. But not my coffee. It's probably cold by now. So anyway, so far this is great. God, I've been over an hour and I haven't even thought about my foot. And it doesn't hurt, so we're okay. So what they did in this study, and it was a pretty well done study, they went ahead and they got, since it was a government, all the data is public record. So they went and got all the data from this study, because it didn't make sense to them that they could do a study, and they wanted to see how it was done, how it was structured and designed, and how they managed to extrapolate from the data the conclusions that they drew. And I'm not going to go through all the details of how they picked it apart, but they did. And this was the scary part. The scary part was there was a reason, and it was poor design, carelessness, and not considering a lot of facts that are true in the way they designed the study that led them to make the conclusions. And it turns out that if you looked at the data the right way, it made exactly the opposite conclusion, and that the low-carb, high-fat diet is much better for you, and you'll lose more weight. The diet was designed to try to help cure the obesity problem in this country. So what they're doing is they're oh, let me say hi to my buddy Art. Artco Drone Solutions. Hi, Art. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you, man. I got a couple of drone guys in here tonight. This is great. Chris Hope's in the house, too. I say it aggravated me, because this is what they keep doing. The diet, the high carbohydrate, low fat diet, which basically has everything wrong with it. We should be running on fat, not sugar. So a low fat, high carb diet forces your metabolism to be burning sugar, and sugar is toxic. And sugar was never meant to be used for anything by the human body other than survival fuel in times of when the hunt failed, or you ran out of meat and you're starving to death and you needed to eat something to get some energy. And sugar is quick energy, and it burns in a flash, whereas the fat gets stored. And the excess sugar gets turned into fat by the body. We know that all too well, so that it can be stored. And I always say that, even when you wanted something to burn for a long time, you burned fat. You had oil lamps, candles. When I see that Harvard University says red meat causes diabetes, which is the most absurd thing, after you really learn the chemistry of it, and see the results of all of these people that are getting off of their diabetes medicines and normalizing their A1C by not eating the carbs. And then they come along and tell you in Harvard University that they have a study that shows just the opposite, that the meat is bad for you. That stuff doesn't make any sense, and it's just maddening. And yet, that's not the only thing in this world that's maddening. Just watch the news, listen to politics. You'll get mad at just ridiculous crap being said by people. And even more ridiculous that some of them actually believe that crap that they're saying. I don't know, but it tells me that we have a long battle. It tells me that no matter what we do, what we prove, in most cases, the message will never get to the masses. It hasn't yet. You don't see it on the news. You don't see it on mainstream media. You don't read about it in USA Today or Time Magazine. You don't hear about carnivore if Joe Rogan isn't talking about it, or Scott Peterson. And that's just on social media. But the real reach, the newspapers, the magazines, they're not jumping into this controversy because it's not even a controversy to them. Most of them still believe calories in, calories out, and eat your healthy fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And meat gives you colon cancer. They believe that. They've heard it. Their doctor told them. And, gotta, respect your doctor. He's a smart guy. Remember something I learned a long time ago about getting an education. Anybody can get an education. The trick is to find a teacher that knows what he's talking about. What good is, and I'll use dietitians as an example in our country. These dietitians that work in hospitals and schools, they're taught to feed the garbage and the poison, and they think that it's healthy. They think that giving school kids pizza for lunch and cookies and orange juice is healthy. They were taught that. And just because they went and sat and learned that, they get to put letters after their name. And they proudly display those letters, including the letters PhD, MD, DO, OD, certified this, certified that. Most of these people never had an original thought or did any research on their own. They are parrots. They sat in a classroom, they watched some kind of a PowerPoint presentation or slideshow. They heard somebody go blah, 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 blah. They read a book, they passed a test, multiple choice test. They guessed half of them. They got the letters. And then you pay them money and they give you advice. And it's wrong, but we believe it because they have that aura. They have the uniform, the white coat, the authority, the education, the Porsche out back. They have all that stuff. And they're telling you stuff that's killing you. So how do you know this? This is, that's why I'm proud of the fact that everything I've learned, I didn't learn sitting in a classroom. I ferreted out every bit of knowledge that I have in my head came from my own work and my own research and filtering what was bullshit and what was real and what made sense and what didn't. And most of all, what fit in the same gigantic jigsaw puzzle with all the other pieces. Because if you had a piece that wouldn't fit anywhere in the puzzle, you had to be suspicious of that piece. Because our whole reality, our whole world, our whole history, where we came from, right on back to the beginning, at whenever the beginning of the universe is. And they thought they had that nailed to 13.8 billion years. And then they put up this James Webb telescope, and all of a sudden they're finding galaxies in places they're not supposed to be. And it's got the whole scientific community standing on their heads right now. So even the things that we think we know for sure, we don't. And that's what science is about. go with what you think you know until more information comes along. And when it does, be flexible. Be prepared to say, wow, I used to believe that, but then this came along. Now I don't believe that anymore. Now I believe this. That's called having an open mind. And the problem in the way our society is structured is it's almost impossible for most people to have open minds because they bet their life on the way their mind was set before. You take a doctor, president of the department of whatever at his hospital, wears this long white coat, published papers. Somebody comes out and says, hey, doc, that paper you published was bullshit. It's wrong, and let me show you why. You think you're going to change his mind? He's got to die before the public's mind will get changed. That's why scientists generally say progress happens one funeral at a time. It isn't until the old guys with the old ideas ends up dying of old age that the new younger guys actually have a chance to get their new ideas and more modern thinking with better testing and more realistic logic. And that's why we're still eating breakfast cereal for breakfast. Because in the 1920s, Dr. Kellogg decided that men needed to eat cereal to dampen their sex drive. That was it. It's a fact, and it's still a fact. And yet, how many, I've told that story to so many people, and not one single person that I've ever told it to has said, I knew that. I say to them, do you know where breakfast cereal came from and why? I mean, you can Google it. It says right there, you Google it. Who invented breakfast cereal? It says John Harvey Kellogg invented cornflakes to dampen men's sex drive and keep them from masturbating. That was the purpose of it. It's right there, down in black and white. People don't understand that, or where we've been through the story so many times, but that's not a story that the general public has any idea of. Most people don't know the origin or detail of very little of what they deal with on a daily basis. So this Ken Berry video with Nick Norwitz and Adrian Sotomoda was very interesting. And basically, they showed, and they published a paper disputing the original findings of this long white-coated president of this department for the national, a very, very well-respected researcher who basically missed the boat on this study. And, of course, when a study comes out and says that, everybody who's got the agenda of plant-based, no meat, jumps on it, and you'll see it on CNN and NBC and ABC. You saw that red meat causes diabetes study on every major news network. You never saw one that says that red meat helps put diabetes in remission. Have you ever seen one story on any major news network that says, other than Jordan Peterson and, not Scott Peterson, Jordan Peterson and, what's his name? Shawn Baker. I'm getting punchy, guys. And I didn't even take any drugs. I'm just running on a small amount of sleep. I've still got 120 people in here. God, I can't scare you. I can't scare you people away. Anyway, one other thing I wanted to tell you that I'm going to do, and if you think it's a bad idea, let me know. I've noticed I've got over, how many subscribers is it now? I lose count sometimes. I have 17,295 subscribers. Can you imagine? Now, by YouTube standards, that's not a lot of subscribers, but it's enough subscribers to get you into the top 5% maybe, because that's a lot of people. And I got most of them in 4.5 months, so that was amazing to me. And it dawned on me the other day, because I keep trying to think of things to make new videos about. What can I tell all these people? God. First of all of them don't watch my videos. The major proportion of views that we get on our videos are actually from new people who discover us. We have the numbers. And they've never seen me before. And they don't know me like some of you guys who I know already by name, recognize the name every time I see it in the comments or in a live stream. And I know you've been following me since I started. I see a question here from Guy Carnivore. Let me stop and I'll try to remember where I was. Would you be willing to give your perspective on the video by the Carnivore Doctor YouTube channel about macular degeneration with Chris Kenobi? I've seen a couple. There's Lisa Weidman and Chris Kenobi talks about that. Of course, Chris Kenobi is the seed oil guy. I found out the other day that Ken Berry has great respect for Chris Kenobi, but Ken Berry doesn't think that seed oils are the major problem. He thinks they're inflammatory, but he's basically wants to blame the sugar. I don't know what I think because I'm not a researcher, and my thoughts on the matter are only listening to all these other so-called experts' opinions and deciding, but I know none of that shit is any good. But I have heard anecdotal cases of, I didn't see that video that you're talking about, but I have heard anecdotal cases of carnivore being very helpful when it comes to helping in macular degeneration, and that's all I know about it. I do know that my eye floaters have all but disappeared. All my little friends that I used to have don't like me anymore. They're not there. So, and I've heard a ton of other people. I think it can only be good for your eyes. I do get out in the morning sun when I can and take off my glasses and get some of that ultraviolet that they say is so bad for you, because I do. Butter helps with your eyes, says Irene. I don't know about that. But I think that anything that was humans were experiencing in prehistoric times can't be bad for us. I think that a lot of the stuff we think is bad for us is actually good for us. Like walking around in bare feet, grounding, not getting too much blue light, all that stuff, that back to nature stuff. How much of a difference it's going to make, I don't know. Am I going to go crazy and start running grounding wires all over my house and tying a wire around my foot when I sleep? No. Would it help a little? Maybe. How do we know? Who's going to pay for that study? That stupid study that these two guys just proved wrong cost $100 million of our money. Sugar and seed oils are both bad, says BB1. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Nothing like bacon grease, man. And it makes the food taste better too. Well, blood sugar, Florida says he thinks blood sugar ruins the tiny capillaries in the eyeballs. It's very possible. That stuff gloms onto everything. I mean, you got somebody, an annoying neighbor that you don't like, pour some sugar in the gas tank of his car. See what it does to the car engine. Well, what do you think it does to our body? It gloms on the red blood cells. It screws up and interferes in cellular chemistry in so many different reactions. It's turned into it triggers the insulin, and too much of that hormone is known to be not good for you for a lot of reasons. It makes you fat because of that, because the insulin is the fat storage hormone. And again, there's roots in that as well in our prehistoric history. It was a survival benefit when the real food wasn't around and the humans were forced to eat what berries and fruits and grubby root vegetables and starches that they could find, we were triggered to gorge on that stuff and get as much of it in us as we could, either hold or eat it till it's all gone, because that let us survive a little longer, because some of that stuff was used for instant energy to power our cellular respiration, and the rest of it was converted to triglycerides and stuffed into our fat cells so we could have energy later. And that's why we have the drive with carbs to eat until we can't move and never really feel satisfied. But with meat and fat, after a certain amount, you push the fork away and say, I had enough of that. And there's real reasons for it. Nothing exists or came from nowhere. Nothing exists without a purpose. There's a purpose for every behavior that we have, a purpose for every instinct that we have, a purpose for every instinct every animal has. Somewhere back in time, it became a survival benefit. And once a behavior becomes a survival benefit, it will eventually find its way into the genetics of the entire species, because the ones without it have a lesser chance to survive, and over time, that branch of the family tree dies off completely. So here we sit in the year 2023 with the genetics in each one of our cells that was the lottery winner from every species that came before us and contributed to fine-tuning those genetics back to the first thing that ever lived. And that's why when you try to figure out what's best for you, you have to consider where this particular either behavior or chemistry or reaction came from, and why we have it, and how to feed it. And we came up eating meat. Not every animal did, but we did. And adaptation over time is also a survival benefit. When you adapt, when an animal adapts over time, for example, take a koala bear. Koala bear eats one thing. They eat eucalyptus leaves. Why? It seems strange, doesn't it? Well, what happened was their koala bear ancestors at some point probably got themselves isolated somewhere because geography, because mountains rise and plates shift and weather changes and forests come and go. Animals find themselves stranded in conditions that their ancestors didn't live in. Tree dwellers may find themselves in the middle of the Sahara Desert a number of generations later because of climate changes and geographic changes and temperature changes and everything else. That's what drives migration. So when animals had to migrate into a new area, the foods maybe that they used to eat aren't around anymore. And you can just envision the koala bear population finding themselves in an area that had nothing but, or mostly, eucalyptus trees. And they pretty much had to eat the eucalyptus tree. I don't know if any of you have ever tasted eucalyptus, but I can't even imagine having to eat that stuff. But some of these bears managed to adapt to it. And they adapted because they had minor changes in their chemistry that allowed them to digest it or whatever. Over time, they all ate eucalyptus leaves. But it was because they were forced to at some point. Well, our ancestors millions of years ago were forced to hunt animals. That's pretty much all there was. And we became carnivores like so many other animals did. And we're stuck with that now. We can't regrow that hind gut like a gorilla has so that we can digest vegetation like they can. We can't grow four-chambered stomachs like ruminant animals have. We lost ours. They call them vestigial organs. our appendix is where that used to connect. I think it is anyway. We still have tailbones where our tails used to connect. It's all there. It's all there, and it's in the fossil record, and we've learned about it. And over the last 50 or 100 years, we've pretty much put the pieces of the puzzle together. And you can't forget that you can't forget that puzzle is there to look at. Anyway, you know me. I get going on those rabbit. I found an interesting thing. Yeah, I love these interesting, mind-blowing facts. And I think I'm gonna cut it short here pretty soon, because it's 9:30. But I'm gonna ask you a question just for fun, because when we talk about cellular chemistry and all the different reactions are happening in molecules, DNA, all this stuff is atomic level stuff. A water molecule has 3 atoms in it, 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen. It's integral in most of the reactions that happen in our body. And, we're certainly more than half water. That water is combined with all kinds of things, but our energy, all the energy that we make from the air we breathe and the food we eat and drink, is done in the mitochondria of every cell in our body. So if we have trillions of cells, and each one of those cells has hundreds of mitochondria, and I don't know if any of you heard about these names like the citric acid cycle, glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, the electron transport chain, oxidative phosphorylation. I don't know what any of that shit means, but I know the words. It makes me sound like I know something. See? No, I actually know what all that means. That's the scary part. Well, that's all happening at a molecular level. In other words, this particular molecule is giving up a hydrogen ion to that one, and the stuff that's getting swapped around and the stuff that's combining is happening at a molecular chemistry level. Well, how small do you think that stuff is? We already know that one DNA molecule, the double helix that goes around like this, and in that double helix, it's like a twisted ladder. There are ladder steps across, which are made up of base pairs. And there are 4 different base pairs, and with the positioning of the different base pairs on those ladders is the genetic code. So one DNA molecule, and think about this. Just one DNA molecule. Now, every cell in your body has a nucleus, okay? But one DNA molecule is a ladder with 3 billion rungs. Most people, I always thought everybody knew that, but it's surprising. 3 billion rungs. And they say that if you unwound a DNA molecule and stretched it end to end, it would be meters long. And I even read somewhere that if you took all the DNA in one human body, and you somehow could unravel it into the strands of, I think, 6 meters long, and you could put those 6-meter strands end to end, okay, you would have a strand or a ladder in a straight line that would go from the earth to the sun and back 7 times. And that's in one body. So what I'm trying to say to you is that shit is really small. I mean, think about that. How fine something that's just a few atoms wide is. So I got curious. I'm saying to myself, "Wow, I mean, this is really small. This shit is really small, and yet every one of those reactions is going on every second of every day, tens of thousands of times in every one of those cells in our body. That's life. That just has to keep going. It has to be powered. And it is so, the more you study it, the more fabulously complex and wondrous it is. But a lot of people don't, they see a person, but they can't think of the scale of what we're built of. And we're doing this diet to make sure that every one of those little things that's going on thousands of times a second at that atomic level has the atoms that it needs where it needs them to plug in and complete that reaction. That's one part of a huge chain of other reactions. And not having those things, and I've talked about building materials, is the essence of malnutrition. And it's the problem that the human race is having now because they don't want us to eat meat. That just consequently seems to have, up. Here's my thing. M2M Games, look up DNA evidence that humans and chimps share a common ancestor. Well, of course they do. I'd love to talk. I'd love to talk with you about that. And this is the kind of stuff sometimes we get to talk about in the private community where I can actually start diving down these rabbit holes of stuff that I just love to talk about that would bore most people who just, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're just more interested in, in how do I do the diet, not why do I do the diet. But talking about common ancestors, every living thing on the planet at some point back in time has a common ancestor with every other living thing, including plants and bacteria and mushrooms. A common ancestor just means in this humongous tree of life, that's where the split happened. In one particular organism, one particular, called a person. This is a touchy subject to talk about because the religious and ideology of religion gets involved. And there's just so many people that just won't accept this, and I understand why. But the evidence is there for it, especially since we were able to dig into the DNA. Mitch, there's no fossil core. See, that's it. ADK's right there. He's telling me evolution is just a myth and we have no proof. So I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that. I can't teach you. You have to learn yourself. And if you don't want to learn, that's fine. And I respect your opinion. I respect your opinion. I know better. I have proof. And there is a fossil record. There's millions of fossil records. You know how I know that? When I was a kid in Philadelphia, I used to spend all my free time in the museums, especially the Museum of Natural History. And they had a dinosaur in the lobby, dinosaur bones, and fantastic. And they had fossils. And if you want to really find it, all you got to do is just Google it, and you'll get hundreds of thousands of images. Not only do these fossil records tell the story, I mean, they tell the story. They tell the story because of the similarity of what's inside things that are different species that are obviously linked. But the DNA tells the real story. The DNA is the programming. And I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't want to, but I will tell you this, that I think it was in the 1970s, the Pope himself said that the church is in no conflict whatsoever with evolution, period. If it's good enough for the Pope, I would think it'd be good for a lot of religions, but not everybody's a Catholic. Most religious people today truly believe in the science of evolution, including Ken Berry, who's a deeply religious man, deeply religious. And yet, he's built his whole career on his study of evolutionary biology, because that's where the answers lie as to why our machinery works the way it does. And I don't want to make any enemies, and I don't want people burning me at the stake or anything, call me a witch. So God invented evolution. Fine, that's fine. I don't want to argue with anybody. You could all talk about what God did and what he didn't do. I've never met the guy. Sorry. I can't tell you that for a fact, but there are things I can tell you for a fact. But I don't want to go there. I mean, that's a you can't win an argument. It's not even an argument. It should be a discussion. But you can't win. Ideologies are so deep. They're so deep that you can't. The only way for somebody to have their ideology change is through self-discovery and something they call an epiphany. I've had a lot of them in my life, and if you know what an epiphany is, otherwise known as an aha moment. I wrote a book 20-some years ago full of that stuff. Nobody wants to read it. So I understand. I love you all. Believe me, I love you all. I have beliefs that may be wrong, but it's what I believe. So I was hoping, yeah, BB Mac says, I knew the evolution thing. Yeah, I just, you notice I try to generally avoid it, but I can't tell the story, the real story of how it got to be that we should be eating meat and cows should be eating grass. I can tell you the real story of that, generation by generation. And that was a point I was trying to make when I started talking about the size of molecules, was that there's things that most human beings don't grasp very well, and it takes a while to get used to the concepts. One of those things is size. How incredibly big things are or incredibly small things are, like molecules. We don't grasp time very well. When somebody says 1,000,000 years, we almost can't comprehend the fact that that is 50,000 human generations. 50,000 generations in 1 year, in 1,000,000 years. And there's 1,000 of those in 1,000,000,000 years. And we talk about ancient history as being 5,000 years ago, which is the last tenth of a second of the last minute of the last day, if you were to put the whole length of time. And again, here we go with creation, but I'm not going to go there. And there are documentaries, and there are just ways to even figure this stuff out. We are in the last instant of time. Any time we can comprehend is just the last instant of a huge amount of time that came before it. And in that time is when all the stuff really happened that made us what we are. And space, we can't comprehend space, the size of the universe, because our brains just can't comprehend a space that big. It just doesn't make sense. How could it not end? It has to be an end. We can't comprehend a space without an end. What is it? Where does it end? Is there a wall? Well, if I come to a wall, what's on the other side of the wall? More space? I can't. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And And it can be explained in quantum mechanics and other spooky stuff, but it's the size, large numbers, and time that make it all make sense. And if you can start to think in those in that perspective, you can start to really understand this. And most scientists that do this stuff, they do understand that. And the one fact that I was going to bring out that started this whole stupid conversation, how many water molecules, H2O, in one drop of water? Okay? How many water molecules in a drop of water? Let's see what Mr. Google has to say about this. Let's see here. Let's go and get this up and say how many molecules in a drop of water. There are over 1.5 sextillion molecules in a drop of water. Do you know what a sextillion is? A sextillion, I think, would be a trillion. I mean, a trillion. There are not that many stars in the universe. So if you want to think about what's going on inside your body and how small it is, start thinking in terms of atoms and molecules. And if you don't know or can't comprehend how small those things are, you take an eyedropper and drop one drop of water out of it, and you've just dropped out a trillion water molecules. So numbers like things like that, just, I go, holy cow. How could anything be that small? And that's the size and scale of the chemical reactions that are occurring inside of us thousands of times every second, every day, in every cell. And that to me is what makes up the wonder of life. Yeah, M2M Games typed it out there. Look at that. 1 trillion, is it a trillion billion or a trillion? I don't know. It's such a big number that it doesn't matter. So imagine trying to calculate the number of water molecules on the planet Earth. And that I used to use that as an example. And I used to tell people, when I wrote my book, I was, I guess, teaching. I would say that every question has an answer. We may not know the answer, but that doesn't mean an answer doesn't exist. So if I said to you, how many grains of sand are there on the planet Earth? There's an answer. There are. And it probably changes pretty quick because sand comes and goes, but at any given instant, there is a number, a correct number. It's going to be such a huge number that you probably couldn't comprehend it, but it does exist. And if I said to you, what's the exact number of molecules of water? Well, we know that there's 1.5 sextillion in one drop. How much on the planet? Well, there is an answer to that. And it's in numbers like that, okay, of molecules and atoms, and in lengths of time, in billions of years, that lay out the odds that life could have formed by accident. You get that many for that long, bumping into each other constantly. There's an old saying, and I first heard it on a Bob Newhart comedy gag, and he said, if you give an infinite number of monkeys an infinite number of typewriters and gave them an infinite amount of time, they would write all the great books. And that is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. They'd write a lot of shit besides the great books, but with all those monkeys and all those typewriters and all that time, eventually all the great books would be written. At any rate, on that note, I hope we're not getting too crazy. Oh, who put that number? Cranky Carnivore, 10 whatever in Britain, France, and Germany. Holy cow, can you gain weight if you're on a carnivore, if you do priming? Oh, that's a question, Pat. I don't know. I'm not really an expert on priming. The closest I get to priming is the advice I give to people that for the first 30 days on a carnivore diet, stuff your face. Don't ever allow yourself to be hungry. Just eat meat. And that's the easiest way to make sure you don't fall off the wagon. If you ever just eat bacon, eat 5,000 calories a day if you have. Doesn't matter. If you gain weight, fine. The whole purpose of the first 30 days is not to lose weight. It's to convert your metabolism towards fat burning. So that's, I think, the logic behind priming is pushes you into that fat burning metabolism a little quicker. So guys, I didn't think I was going to make it like 2 hours. Mitch, please contact Carnival Cruise Lines and ask if they will host a carnivore cruise once a year to start. Oh, you want me to do that, Andrew? The only time they'll ever host anything is if somebody's paying them for it. So, they're not, they would be happy if we had a group of a couple hundred people that wanted to go on a cruise, and we went to Carnival and said, hey, we got 300 people here want to take a cruise, and this is going to be the theme. They'll be happy to put that together for us. Pat says, I'm going on a carnivore cruise in August. I know that. Is that the one that Ken Berry's going on? I know there's going to be a cruise. You couldn't get me on one of those things to save my life. I've been on so many cruises, and I like cruises, but I'm just cruised out, and the temptation, even as carnivore as I am, the temptation of all of that food. Because that's why, that's what you go on a cruise to do two things, eat and drink. Oh, maybe a little sightseeing, but primarily eat and drink. It's all about food and drink, and that's a dangerous place for somebody like me to be. Yes, it is. So I hope it was somewhat interesting. I still got 100 people hanging around, so I must have been interesting. Thanks, guys. I enjoyed it. I hope you didn't get too tired of me. Yep, just eat what works for you. Yeah, and if I missed anything from you guys in the chat, I'm like busier than a one-arm paper hanger here, but having a good time. Thanks for coming. So I will crank up a little traveling music. Let's do this one. I like this one better. I like this one. There we go. I like that. Oh, you guys you're just busy at it in the chat, aren't you? Let's hang out and talk about DNA evolution sometime. Oh, man, look. Everybody's got their own ideas. I mean, imagine what would happen if we started talking politics in here. Oh, God, you got it. I'm not a hippie. I'm not one of these love everybody. I'm just saying, just be open to the other guy's ideas at least. Don't just shut them down like that. I don't shut you down either. I may be wrong about all of it, You know what I mean? Who knows? We do the best we can. And none of us are going to be around long enough to really see what happens in 10 or 20,000 years. So make the best of it. Make the best of it, because it goes fast. If you're as old as I am, you know what I mean. If you're younger, you won't believe it, how fast it goes. All right, guys. Thanks so much for coming. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Private community. I don't see people cramming to join it, but it's really fun. And another thing I'm doing with that is every video I post, as soon as I get done editing it, I throw it up there on YouTube for the private community until it gets released in probably the next day afternoon. So they get a chance to see this stuff early. Whether that's worth anything or not, or you even want it, I don't know. I don't know. We do have a good time on Thursday night at our chat at 7 o'clock, and you can actually put links up there, and if you want, you can actually come in here and talk to me face to face right there on the screen, you know, in a Zoom-like kind of atmosphere, in a window, all your own. So think about it. If you'd like to join. And those of you that have been texting or chatting in green, those are the private community members. And I hate the word private because there's nothing really special about anybody like that. They're not like sitting first class or anything. They're people that have told me they appreciate what I'm doing and throw a couple bucks a month my way to help me support this thing. And I do appreciate that. So that's all. I'm going to bed. Let my foot hopefully be better by tomorrow. And with that, of course, I'll give you the rest of the day off. And class, what are we supposed to eat? Meat. Bye.